Hello and welcome to Computing's CIO interview series. I'm here with Ian Penny, Group CIO at Hiscox Insurance. Ian, there's a huge amount of change going on at Hiscox right now. Could you tell us about some of the programs that are underway?
Sure. I think we've seen in the annual report, IT mentioned more times than at any previous stage of Hiscox's career and its history. The transformation programs that we're doing are quite profound. We're replatforming our UK business. We're starting to replatform our US business. We're replacing the entire financial systems of the firm. We've just completed the HR systems of the firm. So we're renovating the entire core systems capability of Hiscox. And also then looking at how we provide digital channels above that. So using APIs, using automation technology, and analytics across the board.
Okay, so could you tell us what's the business driver for this replatforming? Because that sounds like a mammoth task in itself.
Yeah, so a number of different things. I guess we, like a lot of insurance companies, have got some heritage systems that have been around for a little while. And looking at the growth ambitions of the firm, those systems are not going to be able to survive the sort of doubling or trebling the number of policies and such that we have and the number of customers so our growth ambitions are really driving us to say, how do I change the systems landscape? How do I put in some new packages, some new commercial systems? But more importantly also, how do I drive automation? How do I drive efficiency? How do I drive new channels? The insurance market itself is also going through some fundamental change. The way in which we interact with big broker communities and such is changing from being very paper-based to being much more API-based, and the partnerships and such we have in that space. So driven both internally in terms of our ambition at Hiscox, but then also externally by the evolving environment. And we like to think that we are, at the front of that pack, starting to help drive some of this as we go forward.
Yeah. Okay. What platform is it that you're moving to, and why did you choose that particular one?
So a number of different ones. So, for example, in the UK environment, we've got some in-house written systems from a heritage. We're adopting Sapiens Edit. Sapiens are a commercial software provider in the insurance space. And we are probably about 75% of the way through that platform base. We've moved all of our direct lines onto it. We've moved some of our broker lines. Our art and private client has moved across. And what we're seeing is a lot of efficiency in driving pricing, in driving policy things. So more than 90% of the policies now come through that system in an automated fashion, which frees up our underwriters to actually go and have a high value conversation with somebody. So it means that we're able to take risk and talk about your individual requirements as a small business owner or a commercial property owner maybe. And that interaction, that human element, is enabled by the fact that we've got the efficiency at the back end.
So we were talking earlier about some of the automation that you have going on, some of the AI that you have going on, which is around sort of scanning documents for standard terms and conditions, but that's what interested me was it's not designed to be. It's not knocking people out of work. It's, as you said, freeing people up to do more high value stuff, not the sort of cranking the handle work.
So one of the key things that we have is an approach to talent and people. One of our values is human. We're a human company. So what we're doing is taking some of the low value tasks that people might have previously done and have been forced to do, and automating them out of the way. So in the document space, that could be you send us a policy as an insured. You're not one of our insureds right now, but send us your policy. We'll scan it in. We'll look for a whole bunch of terms and conditions, and then the pilot work that we've done right now means that we can actually produce a Hiscox equivalent policy. We've got in our reinsurance sector and London market, we're just starting some work around standard terms and conditions using machine learning algorithms in that space. But what we're doing is preparing the workforce for this bot-enabled workplace, is how we tend to think of it, which is not the complete replacement of jobs and such, but it's actually freeing up, our highest value asset, which are our people, in order to work on the highest value problems that we have, and and actually looking at our client base, deepening our client experience, deepening the interaction that we have with specific clients.
Okay, so I'm sticking with this idea of the people and the talent that you have at your disposal. I know that's one of the key things at Hiscox is this idea of developing the talent and enhancing their careers. So, what sort of schemes do you have underway, both within and without IT?
Sure. So one of the pillars of the technology strategy, and one of the things I'm most proud of actually, is when we wrote that strategy last year, we as a team put it together. We put a one team pillar in the front of that, and what that means is tearing down the boundaries inside technology, but also blurring the lines between the technology organisation and business. So we have some new career paths in that. We have new entry-level talent programs around industrial placements where undergraduates do a couple of years at university, join us for a year, really get an understanding of what it means to be in a commercial organisation. They go back to university and hopefully they'll come back to us. And that's about expanding the talent pool across the UK especially. We also then are underpinning that with an approach around T-shaped careers. And what that means is we're seeing a lot of traditional technology career paths being disrupted. And they could be AI, it could be machine learning, it could be something as basic as cloud computing. I tend to paint the example of, there used to be a career path which was, I join as an apprentice database guy. I become a junior one, then a senior one, and then maybe I'm the database team lead and such. Well, what does that career path look like now that I can actually subscribe to a database from a cloud service provider? Yeah, and I don't need a database administrator. So if people narrowly define their careers, then we're going to have problems. So our T-shaped approach is to get them to expand out their career aspiration, to look at maybe being a data and analytics person. And that could be getting exposure to our different lines of business, our retail, London market, and reinsurance businesses, or it could be picking up new technology skills. So they've got an appropriate set of tools in the toolbox that any business problem that comes along, they can pick the right tool up and apply it and use their knowledge of our different business lines to solve problems which otherwise they wouldn't have been able to.
Right, so I guess it's good for the staff because they're learning new skills, developing themselves, but also great for the business because you've got a better trained workforce that can move between different roles.
Absolutely, yeah. So what we're seeing is a lot of synergy between and ideas and cross-pollination from one part of the business to the other, whereas previously they would have been perhaps quite siloed. Somebody works within Lloyd's of London, they'd work within Lloyd's of London for a long period of time and they'd only know that environment. Whereas now we're seeing these rotation opportunities as well, where we're giving people an opportunity to go and work in a different business line for 12 months. And the difference between that and just advertising a role and having people go is you get the safety net of a return ticket. So if you're a good employee and you're working in a very highly valued environment, then you can go and work in another part of our business. Go and apply your skills and your knowledge and your expertise in a different part. Yeah? If it doesn't work out, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you've completely destroyed your career. It just means you've got the return. You can come back, and so it allows people to take a bet on themselves, and that's one of the elements that we have. One of our values is courage. So it allows people to take a bet on themselves, to make some courageous career moves, with a full blessing of ourselves as the leadership team. Such we have seen a great take-up of this, especially amongst our female technology staff, who are moving around the organisation. We've got one of our finance controllers within technology who's moving into the portfolio management space. We've got somebody from our program management office who's moving into information security and such, which previously they may not have taken that leap. But through this approach and through this sustained focus on people and development, they're now doing so.
Fantastic. I mean, again, it sounds like it's very good for the business and very good for the individuals concerned as well. Now, I want to move on finally just to discuss DevOps briefly, because I know it's something that you've instigated at Hiscox. You don't traditionally think of insurance firms as being those who are going to be at the forefront, the bleeding edge of technological revolution. It's DevOps, a huge cultural change. How has it been introducing that sort of culture, that way of working within an insurance company?
So I think we've a lot of credit for this goes to my CTO, John Fletcher, who's done a great job of starting to embed this within the organisation. Let me just give you some background, which is our core UK platform actually runs in production in Azure. It runs in production in Azure because we actually run a two-week release cycle, And at any time, we may have between 10 and 30 copies of that environment up and running for development purposes, staging purposes, testing, whatever it happens to be. And the agility that we need in order to stand those environments and tear them down means that the DevOps approach is by far the most practical for that. We're using a lot of open source tooling over the top of our Azure platform. We're using things like Bamboo and Puppet, but then also some startup software, things like HashiCorp's Terraform, for example. And to your point, traditionally you wouldn't have seen necessarily insurance companies being at the leading edge of this, using tools like Terraform and Puppet and Bamboo and such in order to deliver that. But the approach that it's given us means that people can join the environment, they can start to spin their own environments up and such. And the challenge for us in the next 6 to 12 months is actually then to give all of that capability to our development community, so that the cloud teams and such are then out of that loop, and the true DevOps approach of our development community standing their own environments up, tearing them down when they don't need them, and such is fully fulfilled across the board.
So there's been a great take up there. There hasn't been a sort of a pushback or a resistance from developers?
No, if anything, what we've seen is the development community trying to pull this faster than perhaps the CTO community can generate everything that they need.
Well, that sounds brilliant. That's exactly how you want it.
Which is what we want, really, absolutely. So it is a sort of victims of their own success might be the thing, but it's a great place. Just to give you a most recent story, we had a chap, Jack, join the organisation a month ago. He's working on our US replatforming project, something called Mustang, and he was able to generate an entire Mustang environment, Linux servers, Oracle databases and such running in Azure. It takes now 10 minutes to stand that environment up using this tool set that Jack has done. He's done that having joined the firm, as I say, about a month ago, and having no prior Azure experience. So the on-ramp and learning experience and our ability to get people up to speed is paramount.
Well, fantastic. It sounds like there's huge amounts of change going on at Hiscox, but very positive change and being very well received by the staff as well. So
absolutely.
Thanks for talking to us, and thanks very much to you for watching.